In this video, I'm going to tell you how to find your personal legend, your potential, who you're meant to be, like all these big questions that we struggle with.
Sweet.
I want to start with a quote. Howard Thurman, and I'm paraphrasing, says that don't ask what you can do for the world. Ask yourself what makes you feel alive, because that's what the world needs, more people who feel alive. And I want to start there, but I want to go way back to your birth. Okay, so when we are babies, we are whole, we are perfect. You know, you don't look at a baby and you're like, wow, look at all these imperfections, right? You look at a baby and you see hope, you see a blank canvas, you see limitless potential. And then, of course, we grow up and we have to pay taxes, we have to get jobs, shit happens, and we turn into people who are running away from ourselves instead of connecting and running toward ourselves, where whole and completeness and beauty lives, right? So we, at an early age, disconnect from mom, and we start to gain a sense of self. We start to discover what we like, what makes us happy, feelings, right? And there's this magical window. So for me, it was like around 10 to 12 years old. For others, it's very different. For others, that age was a nightmare. For others, because of maybe parents divorcing, maybe because of abuse, shit that's happened, maybe you had to grow up really fast, take care of siblings or whatever. Maybe that was not a magical age for you. But for me, there's this window before junior high school, before high school, right? Before the pressures of society and bullying, and before you start liking playing around with lust and all of other, discovering body parts and all of that. Before that, there's this window where you are pure, you are curious, the world is big, and your mind is set on exploration, and you are extremely present and whole and complete, right? Before you point the gun toward yourself, before you start looking into the mirror and seeing quote unquote defects and things that you don't like about yourself, right? And so in that window, wherever that was for you, or maybe for some, because of their story, they haven't experienced much of it. But what we do is, when we grow up and we have to get jobs and pay taxes and become someone that we're not because of advertising, commercials, parents, all of these pressures, we start to disconnect with that part, right? And so for me, after my divorce, connecting with that part of me came in different forms. So, when I was like 10, some of the best times of my life was spinning on my head and breakdancing and riding this scooter I had. And I can't believe my dad bought me a scooter when I was like, I think around 10 to 12, a little Honda Spree 50cc scooter that you could ride legally on the streets. Man, I can't imagine today driving around and seeing a 10-year-old on the streets next to me driving the scooter. But this was the 80s, no helmet, t-shirt, flip-flops, and I remember feeling like I could fly, right? That feeling. And I remember feeling that feeling when I was breakdancing and hitting flow states and losing track of time, playing with my Legos in my bedroom, and not caring about the world, but just being very consumed with the process of creating something. And so as an adult, as I tried to reconnect with myself, right, as I went through my own hero's journey post-divorce and or actually during my rebirth, I found it in, I found the spirit of that kid in activities like CrossFit. So instead of breakdancing, handstand push-ups and butterfly pull-ups and all of that stuff that taps into the spirit of that kid, I found the freedom of the 10-year-old that was riding the scooter in his neighborhood in It came in the form of a Harley Davidson, right? It came in the form of motorcycles and hugging canyons as an adult and Pacific Coast Highway and all of that instead of right in the neighborhood. And so then I start to connect with me again. And so I think that's kind of the first step in finding your personal legend or your purpose. And I gotta say first, purpose isn't a one road singular bell that you hit at the end. I think this is one of the greatest misconceptions about all of this: purpose, potential, personal legend, all of this stuff, what you're meant to do. The greatest misconception is that it's not all inside a giant pot at the end of a rainbow. The coins are spread throughout. And so I think our journey, our story, right, is what creates your personal legend. So for me, but before you get there, you have to be on the path. And so the world, growing up, makes us disconnect with ourselves. This is why I say that growth is sometimes more about a reunion than anything else, because as we grow up and life happens, we disconnect with parts of ourselves, right? We put parts of ourselves that we actually liked into a hope chest and we lock that shit. And so reconnecting with you, whatever that looks like, is what's going to put you on the path, right, of your personal legend, of your purpose, potential, etc. The word potential, I have a problem with, because I don't think that it's up to you. And I'll get into that in a second. So as you connect with you, because what separates you from you is the broken hearts, which creates fear around your heart, around your capacity to love, other people's blueprints, all the shoulds, advertising, society, parents, all of this stuff that happens in life. It starts disconnecting us with ourselves. When we go through a rebirth, we reconnect with those parts of us, and that's when we kind of become whole again, right? That's when we start to care less what others think. This is when we start to actually listen to that soft whisper that is our truth. I talk a lot about pseudo and solid. This is when we become more solid instead of pseudo. And this is what sets us off into the path that we're supposed to be on, to write this story that is going to be greater than you. And so I believe that as you connect with yourself, you get on this path, right? And as you get on this path, you start to accept all of the shit that's happened. When you accept parts of your story and embrace your story, you are connecting with yourself. You are becoming whole. When you deny what happened, when you rip out chapters, right? And I get it, because shit's happened. And it's lined with shame and guilt, and we don't want any part of that, right? We're embarrassed of those things. You are disconnecting with yourself, right? You're becoming invisible. So as you accept what happened, embrace what happened, and you start to share your story, there's a tipping point where your story becomes greater than you, right? And now we're going into purpose. Now we're going into potential. Now we're going into living a through me life. Now we're going into, it's not even about you anymore, right? We're passing the baton from me to, right, the world. So that's, I think, the process for everyone. And I don't think it's about finding what it is, because once you get there, suddenly you're going to have some kind of enlightenment, or your life is going to be amazing. It's not that. I think it's being on the path, and you're on the path by asking yourself this question. As you connect to yourself, what makes you feel alive? Going back to the quote that I started this video with, what makes you feel alive? Also, who makes you feel alive, Because that feeling, that authentic feeling, and these are some of the questions that I asked myself as I was going through my rebirth, and that's why there's a skateboard behind me and a typewriter, and me doing these vlogs and me writing is the 10-year-old John Kim playing with his Legos and connecting with that part of me doing fitness, me doing CrossFit, is connecting with the 10, 12-year-old John Kim that was breakdancing, me riding my Harley and shooting down canyons and all of that is about me connecting with that 12-year-old John Kim that was on a Honda spree in his neighborhood. And so that connection, I know, feels right to me because it makes me feel whole and complete, and it puts me on that path. And so the way you get on that path is you start asking yourself, what lights you up? What makes you feel alive? Also, who? We sometimes fall down cul-de-sacs because we don't ask ourselves who lights us up, who brings out the best version of us, who's supportive, who's good for us, not just who we are attracted to, because sometimes attraction can lead us down some very dark roads, right? And also, when I say what lights you up, you know what's unhealthy for you. Because if you say cocaine, okay, well, that makes you dopamine into your brain, but that doesn't light your soul up, right? You're actually disconnecting with yourself, not connecting with you. All types of addiction is a form of disconnecting. It's running away from you, not toward. So, back to this question, how do you find your personal legend? How do you find your purpose, your potential? First of all, I want to say your potential is none of your business. And what I mean by that is everyone is so obsessed with finding their maximum. They want to, especially in the world today where we're all about scaling and performance and getting the most out of, our time or what we've built. Humans are different. I don't think we're on this planet to maximize productivity, and so your potential is more of a path, and it's not up to you. So what is up to you and what you're responsible for is doing what makes you feel alive, and using your heart, right, not your head, using your heart and soul to really feel what makes you feel alive, who makes you feel alive, getting on that path. As you get on that path and connect with you, start accepting all the stuff that's happened. Not only accepting, but embracing what happened and who you are, until that shit tips where your story, you passed the baton. Your story is no longer about you, but it's something greater than yourself. And as that story becomes greater than you, now you are impacting other people, and you are finding purpose. You are finding quote unquote potential, but not because you are chasing it, because you're on the path of living a life that is honest to you, where you are seeking a space where you feel the most alive. So ask yourself this question, what makes you feel alive? And if you don't know, I'll tell you, it has to do with connecting to that part of you that you've disconnected with, right? And so when you get on that path, you will start to discover and allow yourself to feel alive again, or for some, maybe the first time. And as you do that, you are going to be on the road that you're meant to go on. You are going to no longer exchange your truth for membership. You are going to be like you were when you started, or start to see yourself like when you started, which is limitless, whole, perfect, beautiful. Now, I know you've been asked that question before, or you've maybe asked yourself, what lights you up, what makes you feel alive, but have you really explored it deeply? Like, it's not just what makes you happy or what makes you feel good. What makes you feel alive on a soul level, right? Where it's undeniable. Because you answering that question in action is what's going to get you on your path. And also, who? Because we're not meant to do life alone. Who makes you feel alive and important and valuable and worthy? Those are the people you want to surround yourself with, right? Those are the relationships you want to invest in. And what makes you feel alive is the activities that you want to submerge yourself in, and that will set you on the right path. Now, that being said, just because you're on the right path, because you are doing what lights you up, what makes you feel alive, doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy, because the difficulty is what's going to make you better. It's what's going to sharpen your gifts. It's what's going to stretch your heart, right? If that path was easy, you would never be becoming. You would be plateauing, and you would be stagnant. So in order to actually run toward potential and purpose, and make the biggest dent that you can, right? In order to pass the baton to something greater than you with confidence, you have to go down a path that's going to be difficult. And the grind is what's going to make you shine. That's what's going to turn you from a stone to a diamond. Okay, so let's sum this up. This is what you do. You start to reconnect to parts of you that you have locked away. You start to ask yourself questions like, what makes you feel alive on a soul level? What lights you up, right? That will put you on that path. As you do that, you lean into all the resistance and difficulty and fears, and this is where you slay your dragons, right? This is where you become braver. This is where courage kicks in. And you surround yourself with people who support you and encourage you, and who also make you feel alive and valuable and worthy. And you fight through all that resistance, because the relationships that we have with each other are not perfect, and there's going to be triggers and all of that shit. But you also embrace it, and you know that that's going to sharpen you as a person, and that's going to stretch your heart. And as all of this happens, you end up moving toward your purpose. And as all of this happens, you end up creating the story. As all of this happens, you end up writing a very unique and powerful story that is going to be the thing that makes the dent.